Imagine walking through an empty amusement park at night. The Ferris wheel creaks in the wind, the carousel spins on its own, and the laughter of children echoes through the air. But there's no one there. Welcome to the most haunted amusement parks in America. What's up, everyone? Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Secrets Untold. Amusement parks are supposed to be places of joy and laughter, but what happens when they're abandoned? Today we're diving into the chilling tales behind 3 of the most infamous haunted amusement parks in America. But before we get into the ghost stories, let's answer 3 burning questions. Why do amusement parks become abandoned in the first place? What makes these places so haunted? And what eerie encounters have people reported in these forgotten parks? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll not only have the answers to these questions, but you'll also get a glimpse into the dark side of urban exploration. I've spent months researching these locations, interviewing urban explorers, and even visiting one of these parks myself. So, let's get started. Story 1. The Curse of Lake Shawnee Amusement Park, West Virginia. Have you ever heard of an amusement park so cursed that even its land is said to be haunted? That's the story of Lake Shawnee Amusement Park in West Virginia. Lake Shawnee Amusement Park opened in the 1920s and was once a bustling hub of activity. Families would come from miles around to enjoy the rides, games, and attractions. But by the 1960s, the park began to decline. Rides were dismantled, and the once vibrant park fell silent. But the silence was deceptive. Urban explorers who ventured into the park reported hearing laughter and screams, seeing shadowy figures on the Ferris wheel, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. The most chilling story comes from a group of paranormal investigators who visited the park in 2005. They claim to have seen a ghostly figure of a young girl swinging on the park's swing set. When they approached her, she vanished into thin air. But that's not all. The land where the park sits is said to be cursed. Before the park was built, the land was the site of a Native American burial ground, and many believe the spirits of those buried there still haunt the park. One of the most infamous legends associated with Lake Shawnee is the story of a young girl who died on the park's swings. According to the legend, the girl was playing on the swings when she was accidentally struck by a truck. Her spirit is said to still haunt the swing set, and visitors have reported seeing her ghostly figure swinging back and forth, even when the swings are completely still. Another eerie encounter comes from a group of urban explorers who visited the park at night. They claim to have heard the sound of children laughing and playing, but when they followed the sounds, they found the park completely empty. As they were leaving, they saw a shadowy figure standing near the Ferris wheel, watching them. When they tried to approach, the figure disappeared into the darkness. So what caused Lake Shawnee Amusement Park to become such a hotbed of paranormal activity? Some say it's the residual energy of the people who once visited the park. Others believe the land itself is cursed. Whatever the case, Lake Shawnee Amusement Park remains one of the most haunted amusement parks in America. Story 2. Ghosts of Six Flags, New Orleans, Louisiana. Next up, we have Six Flags New Orleans in Louisiana. This park is famous not just for its ghost stories, but for its connection to one of the most devastating natural disasters in American history. Six Flags New Orleans opened in 2000, but was devastated by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The park was left abandoned, becoming a haven for vandals and urban explorers. But it wasn't just the living who roamed its halls. Visitors reported hearing disembodied voices, seeing apparitions on the roller coasters, and feeling an eerie presence in the park's abandoned buildings. The most chilling account comes from a group of urban explorers who visited the park in 2010. They claim to have seen a ghostly figure of a man walking through the park's abandoned streets. When they followed him, he led them to the park's Ferris wheel, which began to spin on its own. The group fled the park, but they later learned that the man they saw matched the description of a park employee who had died during Hurricane Katrina. Another eerie encounter comes from a paranormal investigation team that visited the park in 2012. They set up cameras throughout the park, hoping to capture evidence of paranormal activity. What they found was beyond chilling. The cameras captured shadowy figures moving through the park's abandoned buildings, and one camera even captured the sound of a child's laughter coming from the park's carousel. But perhaps the most disturbing story comes from a group of vandals who broke into the park in 2014. They claim to have seen a group of ghostly figures riding the park's roller coaster. When they approached, the coaster began to move on its own, and they could hear the sound of screams coming from the ride. Terrified, the group fled the park, but they later reported feeling as though they were being followed by something they couldn't see. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, there's no denying that Six Flags New Orleans has a dark and fascinating history. It's a reminder that even the most joyful places can become terrifying when left to decay. Story 3. Ghost Riders at Joyland Amusement Park, Kansas. Finally, we have an amusement park so haunted that even its name sends shivers down your spine. Joyland Amusement Park in Kansas. Joyland Amusement Park opened in the 1940s and was once a popular destination for families, but by the 2000s, the park began to decline. Rides were shut down, and the park was left abandoned. But the park's emptiness didn't last long. Urban explorers began reporting strange occurrences, such as hearing the sound of carousel music, seeing flickering lights on the roller coasters, and even encountering what they called phantom riders, ghostly figures riding the park's abandoned attractions. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a group of urban explorers who visited the park in 2015. They claim to have seen a group of phantom riders on the park's roller coaster. When they approached, the coaster began to move on its own, and they could hear the sound of laughter and screams. Another eerie encounter comes from a paranormal investigation team that visited the park in 2017. They set up cameras throughout the park, hoping to capture evidence of paranormal activity. What they found was beyond chilling. The cameras captured shadowy figures moving through the park's abandoned buildings, and one camera even captured the sound of a child's laughter coming from the park's carousel. But perhaps the most disturbing story comes from a group of vandals who broke into the park in 2018. They claim to have seen a group of ghostly figures riding the park's roller coaster. When they approached, the coaster began to move on its own, and they could hear the sound of screams coming from the ride. Terrified, the group fled the park, but they later reported feeling as though they were being followed by something they couldn't see. Joyland Amusement Park is a haunting reminder of how quickly the world can change. What was once a bustling center of joy is now a ghostly relic of the past. But for those who dare to explore its halls, the past is very much alive. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the haunted history of abandoned amusement parks, you're going to love our next video, where we explore the most haunted hotels in America, from cursed suites to ghostly guests. It's a journey you won't want to miss. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we've got more chilling content coming your way. Thanks for watching, and remember, the past is never truly gone. It's just waiting to be discovered.